right, welcome kings and queens. Today we are talking Love and Marriage, Huntsville, the reunion, part 1. Y'all, this reunion was so freaking good. In my opinion, it was a really good one. It really gave and it served. Both Melody and Martell were absolutely stunning. They looked great. What was shown on this reunion and the level of accountability is what we should see and what I would like to see consistently on this show. Period. There should have always been an equal disbursement of accountability for each individual on the show. Forget the coupleship, that they're couples, but pick them apart one by one, and that's what we want to see. We want to see your life that's not attached to anybody else but you. We want to see your projects. We want to see you stand in your own level of accountability. And I believe Carlos may have gotten caught up with personal friendships and or relationships on the show, and he may have lost focus for a while, which is why I've always had the thought, Carlos, you need a buffer. You need a liaison between you and the cast. Sometimes being too close or too involved could be a hindrance. For a many number of years, the Scotts, in my opinion, have been allowed to skate by and not bring their whole selves to the screen. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get deeper into this review. Prior to the reunion starting, they showed everyone arriving, right? They showed the couples arriving, and it was good. I love to see that. But Lord have mercy, y'all. What in the hell did Miss Wanda have on? What was this? For those of you who are just tuning in, or if you're new to the channel, welcome to the palace. I am Queen Sheba. I cover a variety of hot topics specific to reality television, but most importantly, I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits of the Black experience. All right, so let's get into the reunion looks first. Carlos looked nice suit. Carlos always seems to show up pretty consistent at his reunions, very clean, very sophisticated look. So overall, very, very good look for Carlos. Melody, yes, honey, Melody showed up like the boss that she is. Melody walked in, honey, with her God said go sweatshirt on. She had an entire team. She had the makeup. She had the wardrobe. She had the hair. She had it all. Okay? There's been many times that it's been very, very obvious to me that the cast members have tried to duplicate, copy, or match Mel stride for stride. But you can always tell where the dollar stops for the rest of the cast, because Mel's team is unmatched. She was drop dead gorgeous from head to toe, and I'll give her look a 10 out of a 10. Martell. Call Martell what we want, but he showed up looking good. I got to give it to your boy. The boy was clean. The boy was smooth. And the boy is definitely eye candy. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe that's the problem, that the man is a boy. But anywho, he looked great. If we didn't have insight to Martell's true character and behavior, he could easily become a household name. But of course, Martell is always his own worst enemy, in my opinion. But he looked good. Got to give it to him. In my opinion, he was the best dressed of all the men. Kimmy. I think they picked a really good outfit to showcase her body. Her body looked great. You know, Kimmy's in her 50s, so Kimmy looks damn good physically. She looks great. She looked healthy. Her hair. There's been many other looks that I've seen Kimmy rock as far as hairstyles. And she's looked really, really good with some of those previous hairstyles. I'm not sure what inspired the blonde wig. But that wig selection, it kind of threw it off for me. I think it took away from the dress and the rest of the ensemble. I did not like the blonde wig with those edges laid down like that on the side. And maybe they were too heavy. Whoever did her hair was a bit too heavy on the edges. But I just think the hair took away from the entire ensemble. So overall, I think I would give Kimmy's look a 7 out of a 10. Letitia's never really had a reunion look that's just knocked me off of my feet, but this is probably the best one that I've seen. If I had to choose from the past 2 reunions prior to this one, this is probably the best look so far. I'm not sure if they know how to style her body based on what she likes. I'd like to see more of a natural, effortless look on Letitia. When it comes to her reunion looks and her makeup and her hair, she always seems overproduced to me on past reunions. This reunion look was okay. I'm going to give it a 6 out of a 10. Okay, now let's talk about dressing room conversation before the reunion started. I'm going to start with Kimmy and Maurice. Carlos goes into Kimmy and Maurice's dressing room, and he asks Kimmy, what's the goal for tonight? And Kimmy says that I always like to sit back and watch the fireworks. And you know what? Based on that statement alone, that is why I am in favor of a recast for this show or switching out some of the dynamics. We need other people on the show. I feel like the Scotts, just based on Kimmy's statement alone, the Scotts have gotten away so long without having to disclose or expose anything in their lives that Kimmy actually felt comfortable sharing that she was just going to sit back and chill. Now, when it comes to reality television, no one should ever be allotted that privilege on reality TV because the overall theme should be you can get it too. But that goes back to you, Carlos, when I say you have created a level of privilege for the Scotts to be able to walk on this show and expect no smoke. I feel like you created that dynamic, Carlos, from other cast members to the Scotts and also producers that have protected the Scotts. There's a level of privilege that's a level of privilege that Kimmy spoke on that made me uncomfortable as a viewer, hearing her say that out loud. Like, okay, so what are we here for? If you can just sit back and chill and watch the fireworks, then shouldn't you be on this side of the television with us? Because that's what we're doing. Okay. So it's like at this point, are you getting paid to chill? Because that's what you've done past seasons, Kimmy. And based on that comment alone, in my opinion, Kimmy can go at this point. According to Martell and what he has shared regarding Kimmy's instructions about Maurice, they're not even allowed to talk about Maurice. Okay? After a certain time. And if that's true, then what Melody says is somewhat credible when she says that Maurice is the least relevant on the show. And I feel like Kimmy and Maurice and the Scotts have been skating by on GP and privilege alone. If we were to flip the script and look at this from a different angle, let's say corporate America. It's like having a coworker that does the bare minimum and the least amount of work, but they receive equal and equitable pay. Get somebody else to do it. Find us somebody who will be willing to share way more for a fraction of the price. Okay? That's what we're asking for. Let's talk about Letitia and Marcel. Y'all, when Carlos walked into that dressing room, I laughed. I don't know if y'all noticed it, and I don't know who thought of this, but they must have did this on purpose to irritate Marcel. They threw Miss Wanda and Marcel's and Tisha's dressing room. I was laughing so hard. Like, you got to share your hotel room, literally, your dressing room with your mother-in-law. Now I understand why when Kiki did some of her interviews with some of the YouTubers and content creators, she stated that Marcel had a problem with her having her own dressing room. It's because Miss Wanda didn't get one. Miss Wanda did all of that clownery all of that buffoonery. At the end of the day, right, the producers still didn't see enough value in you to allot you your own dressing room. Miss Wanda, honey, I'm sorry, but you are a circus clown to be used. They didn't even give you your own little corner, your piece of a room in a corner. They didn't even carve out a bathroom for you. Nothing. And you did all of that to not get a dressing room. Girl, they did not even deem you as important. Imagine that. I guess your shoes didn't come in a box. All right, let's move on. So Carlos and Letitia have this messy moment. Carlos be so messy, but anywho, they have this messy moment where Carlos says to Letitia, "Oh, who's responsible for the dynamite?" And then Letitia responds that it's the one that had on the Mr. T chain. And she's referring to Melody during the scene at Madani beauty supply store when that big fight happened, right? Letitia, y'all, at this point, this lady has become so obsessed with Melody. I'm sorry, but it's really, really creepy at this point. Hell, I'm embarrassed for her. And it's definitely, in my opinion, giving single white female. Yeah. At some point, Letitia, you have to come off of your fixation on Melody. Because one thing I do know is you couldn't afford that chain even if you wanted it. Okay? It's funny that you would make fun of somebody wearing a chain, but you're really not too far behind Melody regarding mimicking and copying her styles. You wear the same or similar wigs that Melody have worn on the show. In my opinion, Letitia lacks authenticity. And I'm going to break that down soon. Okay? I make it a point to listen very closely to Letitia when she talks. Most things, phrases, one-liners that she often uses or says have been generated, y'all, or come from somebody else. Move on to Martell's dressing room. So Carlos goes into Martell's dressing room. And immediately, I don't know if y'all have noticed it, and if so, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. But what I've noticed is that Carlos has this propensity and a natural ability to take over when he's engaging with Martell. I've only seen him do it with Martell. No other cast member. Have y'all noticed that, or is it just me? I feel like Carlos treats Martell completely different than he treats any of the other men on the show. And I'm not sure if that's because Martell requires a bit more of a hands-on approach, or if they're just cool like that. So Martell was on the phone with Sheree. Actually, let me back up. We didn't even know it was who it was. We didn't even know it was Sheree until Carlos told us. So Carlos asked Martell, "Is that Sheree?" And Martell just smiled. He did not verbally confirm, nor did he deny. Then Carlos asked if he could talk to Sheree. Martell did not even answer, and Carlos just took it upon himself to take Martell's phone and started talking with Sheree live on camera. Very interesting dynamic, in my opinion, to say the least, that you feel so comfortable picking up somebody's phone, not waiting until they give you like a clear-cut answer if they want you talking to their woman. But anywho, Sheree says that Martell is not the guy that we see on TV. Okay? I get where she's coming from. Okay? And she's not wrong from her perspective because that's her man. Hell, they're newly dating. They're in that honeymoon phase. So she's coming into a new relationship, and he's giving her the best that he got. Like Anita Baker says, giving you the best that I got. Yes, all of that. So he's giving this lady the best that he got, and that's all she can speak on. But Sheree, in my opinion, girl, I think it's too soon for you to call that shot. And for your sake, I hope that whatever Martell is serving you and giving you, that he will be consistent. Now, here's the thing. Martell has consistently showed his behind and misbehaved. So I'm not sure what Sheree means. Because, girl, Kenya Moore gave you an entire rundown when you tried to play coy on the Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion. And he's like, no, I don't know. And Kenya said he cheated on his wife. He's rude. Like, come on, girl. You don't see what we see, but that's fine. I get it. But even if you don't see what we see from a love and marriage Huntsville perspective, Sheree, here's where I challenge you. Did you not see him when he came on your show and showed his ass on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, your first episode with Kandi and Kenya? He showed out at Aaron Ross's birthday party, allegedly getting into a fight at the table. So much so that the production crew had to step in and really kind of like divide and get in front of him, because they're not accustomed to a man going toe-to-toe like that with a woman. But okay, I get it, Sheree. Sheree has always been gung-ho about her men. So I don't really expect anything different this time around, because that's what Sheree does. She gonna take up for her men, right, wrong, or indifferent. But did you hear Martell say, but hold on, a few months ago, I told y'all, I said Martell is planning to marry Sheree, y'all. It don't matter the reason why, if it's good or bad. I'm telling y'all, I told y'all, he's planning on marrying that lady, and based on where Sheree is in life, age-wise, I wouldn't put it past her to decline the offer. So based on her response to Carlos, Martell then responds and says, girl, you might get a ring. I think Martell would marry Sheree for attention. And I think Sheree would accept out of loneliness and in need of companionship. Martell is well aware that Bravo would fit the hell out of that bill for a Bravo wedding special. And look, let's keep it a buck. It would be a spectacular event for television. Okay? They would get paid. Martell sees dollar signs. Sheree would get a nice chunk of change. Bravo would pay for it. They wouldn't be responsible for anything. That's all I got on that dressing room. Let's go to Melody. So wait a minute. When Carlos goes into Melody's room, y'all, I noticed a completely different energy. Melody was not playing with Carlos King, and I think he knew it. Now, the only reason I can say this is because I've had the pleasure of interviewing Melody one-on-one. Child, Carlos started twitching and playing with his fingers, and normally that's a nervous twitch when people are nervous, not sure what to say or do. Melody gave him that, oh, you know how Melody say, oh, in her sweet voice when she's being nice enough. Carlos, Melody knows that you can be shady and has caught on to your little game, sir. So, anywho, as they begin to hit the stage and they show the couples walking out, there was this short exchange between Marcel and Martell. Listen, go back and watch it. I actually got a knot in my belly. I felt the nervousness coming from Marcel more so than Martell. I felt like Marcel was nervous as hell. Okay? That was a say man, we good shake coming from the end of Marcel, in my opinion. And if you go back and if you slow that scene down, you can see the look that Martell gave to Marcel. It's almost as if Martell was verbally saying, don't start none, it won't be none. And then Martell says to Marcel, keep your hands to yourself. Y'all, I felt that. So, anywho, Melody walks out. Y'all, I was screaming in my house. My husband thought I was crazy. I was screaming when Carlos announced, welcome to the stage, Melody Cherie. Listen, Melody served. And Martell said, Holt, come what may, one thing you cannot deny, that man will never stop wanting his ex-wife, and the mother of his 4 beautiful children. If you saw the look on his face when she graced that stage with her presence. Side dish where? Peach cobbler where? Coleslaw who? What? Yes. Melody Cherie gave what she was supposed to give, honey. Now, she came out the gate swinging. She called Maurice out. She called out Maurice Scott for attempting to create a division between she and Kimmy. Apparently, Maurice said that Kimmy and Melody aren't friends off the show. And Tisha gave a look like, yeah, like y'all aren't, okay? But here's where I was left scratching my head. Kimmy actually jumped in to challenge Melody regarding her saying that Maurice was the least relevant. He is the least relevant. But then Kimmy hesitated to clarify if she actually sees Melody as a real friend or not. She hesitated. Melody, I'm sad to say, Kimmy is not your friend. Okay? But Maurice, you got to stay out of women's business. Maurice, I need you to stay out of women's business, for real. Kimmy, I have a question for you. I find it very odd that your husband feels the need to speak on your relationship with another woman, but he fails to uphold you in real time and clarify when he needed to season after season if you were actually a side chick. He failed to clear it up. He failed to clear up if he really had something going on at Credit One. He seems to be able to find the words for Melody, but he often becomes tongue-tied when it comes to his relationship with you, and if he was actually messing with you while he was married. If he was messing, he actually becomes tongue-tied when asked if he was messing around with other women while away on that guy's trip to Atlanta when the picture went viral. Now, Kimmy loves to claim that she knows. I knew about Credit One. I knew about the Atlanta trip. But do you really, Kimmy? Carlos King, you got to stop putting words in their mouths. Even in uncomfortable moments, let it be what it is. Carlos started off by saying, I am sure that everyone here is proud of how far everyone has come and the projects that folks are working on. And Melody wasn't playing that game, nor was she taking that bait. Melody came out the gate, she kept it real, and she says, basically, I don't give a damn about what these folks have going on. They've disrespected me. They've disrespected my children, my legacy, and my generosity. And I am not here to play nice anymore with them. Now, she did not use those exact words, but I'm just giving you some context around it and the energy that was involved in her rebuttal and her response. I think Carlos may have been a bit taken back and not expecting that level of matter-of-factness to come from Melody so soon into the reunion. So then Maurice jumps in to save the day, and what he attempted to do was to overlay a compliment on top of Melody's scorpion sting, because Scorpios will sting the hell out of you in real time. He's talking about he's proud of everyone on the stage, to which Melody rebutted, then make sure your behavior is reflective of your words. At that point, I knew. Game on. But let's focus on Maurice and Kimmy. Maurice seems to have a natural dislike, similar to Tisha's for Melody. And I don't understand why Maurice has the tendency to refer to Melody and Martell as if they were never married. Let me use an example. Okay. When he and Melody were going back and forth regarding what issues she took up with him, he says to Melody, I downloaded your song when you were talking about my guy. Maurice, that's that lady's ex-husband and the father of her children. For some reason, y'all, Maurice has somewhat dismissed Melody's relationship with Martell, and he has dismissed Melody as having any value to Martell. It's like he's almost disassociated their 14-year marriage in his head. Now, Maurice, I am not sure what's going on with that, but if somebody did that to Kiowa, I am sure you would have an issue if they treated her like she wasn't anything to you or your son. What goes on between Melody and Martell, Maurice, ain't got shit to do with you. And I'm not sure why you are hell-bent on continuing to attempt to place a wedge between those two. But you need to kind of take a couple of steps back. I think the Scotts have now realized that when all else fails, dangle Melody in front of Martell like a carrot, and he will bite. Melody shut Maurice's ass down when she said, he's always given Martin Luther King Jr. Yes, speeches and all. That's you. And you know what that means? That means rehearsed, not genuine, fake, inauthentic. Look at me. So then Kimmy attempts to take up for Maurice by saying that Melody implied that Maurice was the least relevant. Kimmy, he really is. Okay? He really is. And outside of him showing up this season for you in a life or death situation, he really hasn't treated you honorably as a wife, because the expectations that he had for you sexually and in the bedroom was that of a blow-up doll. Okay? Now, I'm glad that he showed up the way he did this season, but why did it take all of that? See, that's not where a woman needs a man to show up and show his masculinity and his excellence and his leadership. I don't need you telling the world if I'm friends with another woman or not. I can do that as a woman. Where I need you is in the household. Where I need you is to help these boys get up and clean this house. Where I need you is to communicate with me when your son has been caught vaping, allegedly, in the bathroom. And I'm his stepmother, and he lives in my home, yet you have a conversation with your ex-wife and not me. So I don't need you in this girl shit. Here's where I need you as a man. Here's where I need you to uphold my reputation and let people know, let the world know I was not a side chick. But okay, whatever. Now, Kimmy jumps in. And in my opinion, I've been watching this for quite some time. I feel like Kimmy tends to play more of a role of a mother to Maurice, opposed to allowing him to opposed to wifing it out with him. Be his wife, not his mama. Okay. And now that Martell has showed and shared background information regarding Kimmy warning the cast that they are not allowed to talk about what Maurice does after 4 p.m., Kimmy, that's giving mommy dearest. You cannot handle Maurice the same way you would show up for your son, Jalen. That's a grown-ass man, a big grown man, and you need to choose either to be his wife or his mama, but you can't do both. If we're being fair, Melody's comment was in direct response to Maurice talking shit about her anyway. Roll the tape to the bedroom scene that you and Maurice did when you were discussing Jalen's housewarming party. Okay? You remember that? Maurice did not want you to invite Melody over Martell, and Maurice publicly chastised you on national television about choosing Melody over Martell. And not only that, he actually poked at you a little bit, like a grown boy would. Maurice had a problem with you choosing. He said, you seem to be Team Mel. Okay? It's funny how this cast seems to think that they can throw stones at Melody all day, and her job is to take the hits and never respond. And that's why I borderline go back and forth between Kimmy, because I really do feel like you are a puppet master behind the scenes, Kimmy. That's what it's giving. Your brother-in-law, Mark, has shared in multiple interviews that you orchestrated his appearance on Love and Marriage Huntsville. You were the ringleader. You were the coordinator. You set it all up with the production team. He shared that you coached him on being patient. You coached him on what to expect, as well as how it would take place. Martell is the second person to share that you gave specific instructions behind the scenes, telling them what they could and could not talk about regarding Maurice. Child, that sounds like a parent-teacher conference to me. I think Kimmy is playing her position well between the viewers and what we think of her on the outside looking in, as opposed to what's really going on behind the scenes. Outwardly, she's giving us politicians, safe answers, conservative, middle of the road. But behind the scenes, she's definitely, in my opinion, a part of that takedown energy. Kimmy's policy and procedures is no one can talk about Maurice hanging out after 4 p.m. Okay, mommy. So I'm guessing that's why you came up with the cover story about the Credit One situation. Now, Kimmy vouched for Maurice and that Credit One situation where those men are being accused of having after-hours parties with women late at night. Kimmy, how would you know, based on the time frame that you gave, Maurice was single and so were you? That was not your husband. How would you know what did or did not happen in that office building? And it would have been nice if you would have let Maurice respond. Y'all, if you look very closely, Kimmy actually treats Maurice like Marceau treats Tisha. And in my opinion, this isn't necessarily a matter of her caring for her hubby. To me, this is a primary showcase of the dynamics in that relationship. To me, I walk away thinking Kimmy must be the one with the money, because the one with the money often calls the shots. Ma'am, you're doing way too much. That was a single man. Okay? And if he did have women up there, so what? Okay? Let him speak for himself. Because you sound real foolish, Kimmy. I'm just telling you. It don't make sense that you said that men would go to an office building, grown-ass men who have homes, not apartments, that they would go to an office building to play cards and listen to music with each other, according to Martell, until 3 a.m. in the morning. Kimmy. Girl, bye. Even if they weren't all engaged in some type of sexual activity all at once, you don't know what happened. It's always one that want to act a fool and take somebody in the bathroom and do something stupid, right? So you mean to tell me, Kimmy, that you actually believe that grown men were in that building? That's an office building, y'all. Think about office buildings in your city. Grown men in office buildings until 3 to 4 a.m. in the morning. And if there were not any woman or women in the building, that's equally concerning, because what are y'all doing with each other to 3 or 4 in the morning when all of you have families? Okay? Baby, it ain't that much Uno or spades in the world. Kimmy, you probably should have sat this one out, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. And Marceau wasn't trying to disassociate himself from this for nothing. When you hear your brother-in-law say, "Now you know I wasn't there that much," that means something happened, girl. Marceau seemed to be so nervous to me. He was playing with his nails. He was twiddling his fingers. And initially, I did not understand why he was so nervous, but then I understood after a while. First off, I think he understood that this year, he and Tisha were not going to be able to skate by scot-free on this reunion. And I literally mean scot-free. So when Carlos shifted the questions to both Tisha and Marcel, Carlos went in. He jumped right in head first, and he asked them about Scott Manor. And he compared it to Chateau Chiret. He basically said, "What's up with the house? You've been building on this? What's going on? I want to know. The viewers want to know." And Marceau responded. Well, based on Marceau's response, in my opinion, child, we're not about to see no house no time soon. Now, here's the problem with that. It's public record, allegedly, that Letitia has taken out almost a $1 million loan to build that home. And you're still blasting rocks? Look at Martell's face when they are talking. Martell knows where every lie is buried. Martell know ain't no damn house coming soon. And so does Letitia. And I feel like the Scotts have really got themselves in a pickle financially. Both Tisha and Marcel, they tend to tell lies together as a couple. Let me give you a couple of examples. You remember when they had that couple's trip that Letitia planned with Dr. Francis? Y'all remember that? Okay. Letitia and Marcel are the same couple that exploited a friend's death or the death of a friend as an excuse for being late to film when the friend had allegedly passed away 90 days before that. So we know they lie. We know they are prone to lie. And everybody else on that stage knows that they're not above telling a lie. Second example, when Letitia stormed off the stage and came back with that puppet and Marceau chased after her, y'all, they planned that. They planned it at home. I'm going to storm off, but in order to make it believable, you got to run behind me. And it fell flat. And it was so creepy. That was a very creepy moment for a mother of three and a CEO of Schultz. Now, Letitia, you claim to run a multi-million-dollar company, but you're also caught up in a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. God forbid if those folks win and there's a judgment issue that you have to pay that money or do time. Ma'am, you've been identified as the head and not the tail. You've been identified by your own husband and by your own accord, your verbal acknowledgement that you are majority owner. You will be liable. You are responsible. You will need to be able to explain to a judge. Marceau cannot speak for you. Legality, they're going to want to talk to you. So while you sitting here trying to clown Martell, you need to be worried about what you're going to say to that judge. We've seen too many reality stars face legal time in prison for misappropriating funds, Letitia. You are not above the law. Explain why corporations are suing you for unfinished work. Yeah, we know you allegedly, you're smart. You bought majority ownership, penny up on a dollar. But explain to us why you didn't finish that work. Don't nobody care about Marceau. You are the majority owner. You have to go to court and answer that. And those are the pieces of the puzzle that we are needing you to put together for us as viewers. Letitia attempted to put Martell on blast regarding his financials, not realizing. See, this is why when I tell people, don't talk a lot. She just talking, not realizing that she was opening Pandora's box for her own husband. Pay close attention. Because, baby, when Carlos asked Melody to give her commentary and her thoughts on Schultz being in the red, did you see Letitia wiggle in her seat? Okay, fancy pants. Marceau was so uncomfortable with Letitia sitting there talking because he knew that she was going to walk herself into a rabbit hole. And Melody snatched her behind right back into reality. Melody said, I don't know what happened with the money, but I can tell you what happened on my side. Here's what we did as the Holts. Here's what we brought to the table. We brought business to make sure you got work. And as a result, the work that we were able to get you translated into the money you made. Marceau bowed down and he gave Melody props for what she brought to the table. He gave Melody props for growing his pipeline of customers and his pipeline of projects. You ain't did nothing, Letitia, but walked into Melody's greatness. You walked into Melody's favor from God. You walked into Melody's good name. You walked into Melody's connections. Melody threw their asses under the bus because Melody basically said, since you want to be funny, ask your husband. She didn't say that in those words, but y'all, you got to read between the lines. She basically said, ask your husband why the company is in the negative. Did y'all catch what Melody said? She basically told us on national television that Marcel and Martell were tricking off the money. And that's why you found it in a red, Miss CEO. So after Melody talks, Marceau comes in and he gives an explanation of what he brought to the table. So Melody talked about what she brought to the table. Marceau allows her to finish and he talks about what he brought to the table. And you can tell, I'm sitting here thinking about it and I'm chuckling. You could tell from Martell's facial expressions, he did not like Marceau and Letitia taking credit for the, you know what? He wasn't even worried with Letitia. She's child's play to him. But it wasn't until another man stepped into the conversation that Martell begins to put his fingers up like a church steeple in front of his face and put his fingers together. He did not like Marceau taking credit for what he brought to the table and appearing to take credit for the hard work that he and Melody did behind the scenes. Now, one thing I can say about Marcel is he's always done, and he's always shown Melody the utmost respect regarding her business savvy and her hard work. Marcel was man enough to admit that Melody was responsible for the accounts that he was able to land. Marceau shut Martell down quick when he said, what I brought to the table was a builder's license and the knowledge of knowing how to run a business. Listen, y'all. This is really good. It's telling you a lot. The heart does not lie. Marceau was saying, Mel and I did this. Melody brought the business pipeline and the accounts for me to make money, and I possessed the builder's license. Letitia and Martell have basically reaped the benefits of our hard work. That's basically what he said, okay? So Letitia, I'm going to need you to have several seats, ma'am, because your husband has said on national television he wishes that you could come into things on your own accord in your own right. Letitia, do you understand what that means? That means he needs you to build something of your own and not off of another woman's credibility, not off of another woman's prayers, another woman's education, another woman's favor with God. All of the late nights that Melody has stayed up, putting her blood, sweat, and tears into her business, her industry connections. Her is Melody Cherie. You heard it here. The man said it. I wish my wife could come into things on her own right, her own accord. But listen, be careful who you invite to your table. You never know. I would say you could have a Judas seated beside you, but Judas is for the Mels. Hell, you could have a Tisha seated right beside you. Be careful of folks who don't want to put in the hard work, but glad to spend your dollar, your coin, and eat off of your efforts and your coattail. So Carlos shifts the gears and asks both Letitia and Marceau about the lawsuit that they are engaged in. They're being sued. Marceau shares that this is a very hurtful and embarrassing time for him because whatever happens, whatever they're claiming is happening between that lawsuit, he's saying it happened during COVID. Now hold on, Marcel, because a few seconds ago you just shared that what you brought to the table was you knew how to conduct business, along with bringing a builder's license. So let me ask you this. What happened to that skill set of knowing how to conduct business? Okay, because the same people that are suing you know how to conduct business. That didn't go away because COVID struck. They were still ramping up business. They were still hiring folks. So what's your excuse? What happened? A month after you said that you received a multi-million-dollar contract, you mean to tell us you bellied up after receiving a partial payment, quote unquote? I think it goes back to what Melody hinted at, y'all. Marcel and Martell tricked off the money in scope together. Okay? Could it be that Marcel isn't good with being responsible financially? Either way, this is not good. This is horrible. You received a multi-million-dollar contract, and a month after you bellied up. I don't foresee the outcome being favorable for both Letitia and Marcel when we're talking multi-million-dollar lawsuit. It's similar to me to Teresa and Joe Giudice. When those folks want their money back, they're going to turn over every stone, even those rocks that you claim to be blasting. This is a perfect example of when you lie on your resume and get the job. Now, here's the crazy part. Here's the crazy part, though. A lot of other minority business owners in Huntsville and that area in Alabama will probably be overlooked because Marcel Scott and Letitia Scott, who's CEO of Scott, did not deliver. All it takes is one for people to not trust us. This has created, probably will create, a lack of trust between businesses and people of color. Your first big deal that God placed in front of you, you fumbled. And instead of looking for ways to make it right, your wife walks out on stage and want to play with puppets. Make it make sense.